Guys, today is a beautiful day because we just got a brand new teaser for Daredevil Born Again. Not only a series that is dropping within the next 2 weeks or so on March 4th, but a series that I have been waiting for, as many of you have, for many years. Ever since the cancellation of Daredevil, there has been a resurgence in the community for Marvel and Disney to come together, bring Charlie Cox back, bring the entire cast back, and bring Daredevil back. And not only are we getting Daredevil in a couple weeks, we are getting 18 episodes, what I believe to be 18 episodes, and I am very excited for it. So we just got a new teaser trailer. Let's check it out. Let's break it down. I know it's only 30 seconds, but I have a lot to say when it comes to what is revealed in this trailer. Without further ado, guys, I hope you brought the popcorn. We're diving in.
I was raised to believe in grace.
Matt Murdock,
that we can be transformed,
aka Daredevil.
But I was also raised to believe in retribution.
Dude, I can't wait to see the fight scenes in this show. The devil's work is never done.
Just one of those days, I guess. Daredevil Born Again, only on Disney Plus.
Oh. All right, guys, like I previously said, I know that this is just a 30-second trailer, but there's a lot for us to talk about. We're going to go frame by frame at just about every moment that occurs here in this trailer and talk about it, because there's so much that I want to kind of dive into and, you know, with some of the characters, and really just share my excitement for this project, man. I can't tell you just how pumped I am for a brand new Daredevil project. And I've been, you know, over the years, I've spent time going back and rewatching specifically, you know, the Daredevil series, and, you know, specifically season 3, because that's hands down one of my favorite series, as it has Kingpin. There's so much that's happening, like plot wise, in that show. I feel like Charlie Cox gives an incredible performance in that season, as well as, you know, having characters like Bullseye, and so, like, they really went all out for season 3, and it's such an incredible thing. So let's start off. Obviously, Marvel Television, you know, obviously they have to do the branding and everything, but what I want to focus on is obviously the first shot that we get in this teaser trailer being the one and only Charlie Cox, aka Matt Murdock, standing out, looking out at what I believe to be Hell's Kitchen. I would assume this is Hell's Kitchen, right? As he's, you know, you could tell he's got his suit on, right? This is Matt Murdock, you know what I'm saying? This isn't Daredevil. And, you know, obviously, you know, as many of you already probably know, he is a good lawyer, a really good lawyer. And he's obviously preparing for some sort of case, but what's really cool is, like, you can see this duality, and I love the shot that they show afterwards. But again, just highlighting that duality between the two, you know, individuals, Matt Murdock and Daredevil, because while they are the same person, I feel like in many ways it's important for us to kind of treat them as different people, because they really are. Like, Matt Murdock during the day is so different than Daredevil at night, and so we kind of get a symbol of that as he kind of, you know, takes a moment to embrace, deep breath, but then they do this, like, they do this effect that's so cool that showcases what he does and how he spends his evening. Obviously, we know he's Daredevil, and man, I always found it to be really cool watching the Netflix series and seeing how he was able to balance between those things, not just as the character, but as Charlie Cox, who is having to kind of play two very different sides of the same coin, and to be able to kind of keep those sides separate, I feel like is a challenge all of its own. And so obviously we get a good look at Daredevil. We got to talk about this mural though, because this mural highlights obviously that Daredevil is a bit of an icon in this time, right? This was revealed way back when they were revealing that Daredevil was going to be coming to Disney Plus. They made it very clear that this wasn't going to kind of be a revamp. You know, it's starting from the ground up in a way, but it would appear that, like, it's not an origin story. You know, it seems like Daredevil is already well known. He's already, like, people know him. It's kind of Batman in that way, right? The Dark Knight in Gotham, everybody knows the Dark Knight exists. No one really knows who he is. And I feel like at least for me, I kind of got a similar vibe from this trailer, that, you know, Daredevil is a bit of an icon, people know him, and the Born Again just is highlighting that there's a resurgence, that Daredevil is potentially back. What I like in this moment too is this trailer really does a great job of highlighting, you know, of doing really solid transitions that highlight duality between characters, right? We just got a glimpse of Matt Murdock, and it, you know, kind of flashes quickly into him and his time as Daredevil. But then you get into this moment and you're seeing this mural, Daredevil Born Again, but then you go and it transitions right into seeing, you know, Kingpin, who would appear to be, this could be two very different shots, but it appears to be him kind of relishing this or admiring this thing, maybe in a little bit of confusion as to, you know, maybe his time during this time in the show. Daredevil hasn't been around for a long time, and so maybe there's a little bit of confusion there, but it almost looks like he's admiring the piece, you know, admiring the fact that Daredevil potentially could be back. And you know, that's just my speculation, my guess, but again, I love that duality. And then once again, we get a shot here highlighting Kingpin, you know, and we all already know his backstory, we know his past, but again, this is just, it's the duality of the two things. And every trailer we've gotten up to this point has really focused on that, the relationship between Matt Murdock and his other half, Daredevil, and the relationship between Matt Murdock as well as Kingpin. And obviously both of them, when we saw the first trailer, sitting across the table from each other in a diner, obviously very, you know, calm, candid, cordial, but very kind of understanding of their shared history and their past that they have with one another. It seems like this show is starting potentially years down the line after all of that has been a thing, and both of these characters have kind of come to maybe potentially try to move on from those things, but still having a little bit of unease with one another. And so it's really interesting to show that both of these characters have kind of day jobs, but they also have sides of themselves that are a little bit darker. And we kind of knew that back in the Netflix series. That show played on that a little bit, where, you know, these two characters, kind of like Batman and the Joker in a way, right? They're almost two halves of the same coin, two characters that are often at odds with one another, but have a lot more in common than either one of those characters are willing to admit, right? You look at Matt Murdock, he obviously has a dark side to him, you know, that he tries to fight off as Daredevil, but, you know, comes to understand, especially in season 3, that he can no longer escape kind of who he is. And then you see Kingpin, who very much tries to pull that darkness out of him in a way where Matt really has to pull back and say, you know, you won't change and take who I am and corrupt it. And, you know, it's a moment where Matt Murdock really has a sense of victory over Kingpin for the first time, as up to that point, especially in season 3, it really was a lot of a mental game between these two characters. And so again, moving on from there, we get a look at Matt Murdock walking into an empty courtroom, which again, just highlights what he does as, you know, he's a good lawyer. He's a lawyer by day. And one thing I want to say about this is I really enjoy that in just about every trailer, he's mentioned the fact that he's a lawyer. They played on that. They've highlighted that in the trailers. It's one of my favorite aspects of this show is, again, speaking on duality, the way that they're able to highlight both sides of the same character. They don't focus solely on him in the suit, right? They spend a lot of time focused on him just trying to do right in the name of the law and use his skills and the things that he went to school for in order to do that. But he also understands, and what's so cool about Matt Murdock is he understands that the justice system fails people a lot, and a lot of bad people end up getting off and getting out and going and doing more bad. And he kind of represents a reminder that you may be able to escape the justice system, but you can't escape me. And I always thought that was really cool. But again, one of my favorite aspects of the Netflix series was the fact that they put a lot of emphasis in the courtroom, and I came to really enjoy that. You know, I love that they didn't focus too much on him, you know, in his other element. But then obviously, once again, showing the duality and kind of the parallels between these two characters, we get a scene of Matt Murdock obviously training up top a rooftop, and then that transitions directly into what appears to be Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin beating the living hell out of somebody. So that's always fun to watch. And then moving on from there, obviously you got to get that Disney Plus icon. But again, speaking on transitions, I really enjoy how they transition that Disney Plus to TVMA. Again, let's talk on this really quick. This is a really important moment because when this show was announced, a lot of people were apprehensive. They were worried that Daredevil coming back was great, but it was not going to be what it was. A lot of people really enjoyed the Netflix series because it didn't feel like they had all that Disney red tape surrounding them. It felt like those shows could be as brutal as they wanted to be with characters that are meant to be brutal. Daredevil is a brutal character. He's a brutal past, and the way that he handles a lot of foes is in a pretty brutal way. You know, it's like Batman. I think a lot of people really want a rated R Batman series, and I think that's where they really came to enjoy Robert Pattinson's. Was Robert Pattinson's was that Batman rated R? I don't remember. Okay, no, it looks like it was PG-13, but I mean, they definitely, within that PG-13 rating, they definitely pushed the boundaries a little bit. Now, forgive me if I'm incorrect in saying this, but I think when I think about it, I don't believe that there's ever been a rated R Batman series. And so I think that's something that a lot of fans are looking for a rated R Batman film, because Batman is a pretty dark character with a dark past, and the way that he handles his foes is pretty violent. And I think to fully encapsulate that, to highlight that in the best, most accurate way possible, I think you really do have to be able to push those boundaries. And so, this being TVMA, really important for the show, for the character, and for them to tell the most accurate story of Daredevil in the most purest form possible. If they had to keep it in line so that it could fit all audiences, I really don't think this show would be. I mean, it would really be so heavily kind of scrutinized and critiqued and edited down so that it could fit all audiences. And Daredevil just isn't meant to be for everybody. I think certain characters, there's plenty of characters out there that are and do fit within the realm of being able to be age appropriate for all. But I think there are certain characters that if you really want to capture their true essence, you really have to be able and be willing to push those boundaries. So again, this is huge. I know they just highlight it for a second, but the TVMA rating does mean that they're going to push the boundaries in this show. It's going to be as close to, if not exceeding, what we saw in the Netflix series. And to me, that is a really, really good thing. And so kind of moving on from there, again, we see Daredevil, we see a shot of a character who, you guys mentioned this to me last time we did a trailer breakdown, but whose name I continue to forget, but I always think he looks like Scarecrow. And so we get obviously some new faces, some new villains. We get the other one that we saw way back when that I call Tony the Tiger. But again, moving on from there, we get a very what appears to be kind of not frontal, but very public meeting between Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. These characters, again, obviously, at the time of whatever time it is in this show, we're clearly seeing that these characters know about each other. They know who they really are, kind of thing. And it seems like they're still, it seems like things are still pretty civil at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Matt Murdock versus, Daredevil versus Kingpin at some point throughout the course of this 18-episode season. Then we see Daredevil doing what he does best. One of the things that I really enjoyed in the Netflix series that I'm so happy they're bringing back is Matt Murdock just kind of beating people's ass outside of the suit. I really enjoyed just seeing him. He's a lawyer. Nobody really knows who he is. And I can't imagine the surprise on a lot of these, bad guys' faces when they realize that this dude's supposed to be blind and he absolutely just dogged on me. And that's gotta be one that makes you kind of quit the criminal life for a while, And we, of course, get our shot of Bullseye. Once again, really excited that Bullseye's coming back. Punisher's coming back. Kingpin's back. It really has me excited that this is going to be a really interesting season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see how, these characters potentially play into other spinoffs that could be happening down the road as well. I know there's been rumors that, Punisher is going to be getting a spinoff on Disney Plus as well. And that will also probably be TVMA if they know what's good for them. And, then we get our look at the Punisher. Obviously, we know that's coming. He's coming back. He's being played by John Bernthal, who will be making a return. Jon Bernthal played an incredible, I would say, of all the characters John has played over the years, and I've watched many of them. I always find that his time playing Punisher is hands down one of my favorites. And obviously, I still remember him from his iconic run in the first season or two in Walking Dead. But man, there was nothing better than seeing him knock people's heads off as Punisher. He had that character locked in, and so. Of course, we see the devil's work is never done. I love this moment when he puts on kind of this makeshift mask, highlighting the fact that, Matt Murdock is a resourceful character. I mean, even if he doesn't have his gear, maybe he left his gear at home, something goes down, he's always ready. Always ready. And it's just like one of the many reasons why I love this character. Obviously, we saw this shot back in the early trailer. I just want to highlight this really quick because I really enjoyed the silhouettes here. I love the framework that they did with this particular shot here, and just watching the characters just kind of like, watching Matt just kind of go at it. It's awesome, man. It really is super awesome. Of course, we get our shot at the suit. We get a shot of his new bow that we've seen. Again, this is another one of my favorite shots, highlighting just their use of cinematography is just on another level with this show. And I think you really have to highlight this show in the dark. And so a lot of muted tones, a lot of smoke, a lot of lighting. Lighting is so key in a series like this to really frame things in a great way. And so, I always love the Netflix's use of shadow when it came to highlighting certain moments or shooting certain scenes. And I really hope that we see stuff like that. The cinematography is obviously going to be really important in this show with the fight scenes and all that kind of thing. And so I'm really hopeful that they're able to, have iconic scenes like that, like what we saw in the hallway fight and things like that. To this day, one of my favorite fight scenes of all time. The way that they just pan that all in one single shot, showing moments, not showing moments, but kind of allowing you your visual senses or your auditory senses to kind of play into effect, and you're hearing certain things. You're hearing guys get beat up in rooms next door. You don't know what's happening, but you can kind of visualize it. It was a really cool moment that I think plays on a lot of different senses. And so again, we get the new villain. We see Kingpin beating the hell out of somebody. Then you see Matt Murdock beating the hell out of somebody. Again, playing on that duality and the parallels between these two characters. Obviously, they're more similar than either of them potentially even wants to admit. And again, it's one of, you know, like I said, similarly to Batman and Joker, I've always loved the kind of relationships and discussions that happen between Kingpin and Matt Murdock, because while they may be at odds very often, it's really cool to see how these characters almost kind of depend on each other. It's almost like they have this sick, twisted friendship in a way. Although they aren't friends, they're definitely foes, they're definitely enemies. But, you know, similarly, again, playing on that like Joker and Batman, these are two characters that you kind of almost feel like they kind of acknowledge that they kind of understand each other in a way, you know, and while they may be at odds, they're like one of the few people that they feel like exist in each other's lives that actually gets them, you know, that dark, twisted side that's built on trauma, you know, and all that kind of thing. So really excited to see their interactions together. Really excited to see Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, and to see the action, the fight scenes, all that stuff. We are getting 2 episodes that'll premiere on March 4th. Really excited about that. Again, this is going to be such an exciting show. Really good times. And again, it's just one of those things where it's crazy to think that we're finally getting Daredevil back. I mean, I'm sure many of you guys remember when Daredevil first came around. You know, when it first got canceled, I was devastated. People were devastated. The internet was absolutely exploding because it made no sense how Marvel could, you know, cancel one of their greatest shows. I mean, the ratings were through the roof for this series. People really loved it. And I always knew that it had something to do with, you know, Disney potentially, you know, buying Marvel at the time and, you know, making their own streaming service. But it didn't happen for a couple years that we would actually get the announcement that Daredevil was going to be coming back. And when it finally was announced, you know, we'd have to wait a while for it. And here we are. That moment is finally almost over. And I cannot wait to see how they've transformed this series and made it its own. Again, like there's such a love and a passion for these characters, for this world. It was one of my favorite shows. It was hands down my favorite Marvel show ever. So I'm really excited to see what they do with it. So that's it, guys. That is the breakdown. I don't know how we were able to turn a 30-second video into a sub 20 minutes, but again, I just hope that this video shows just how much I love Daredevil. I love this character, one of my favorite Marvel characters, favorite Marvel shows. And it's been a long journey to get back to this point, you know, where we could be celebrating once again the launch of another season. And this show's kind of it's its own thing, you know, it's its own thing, you know, but there will obviously be some comparisons that people will be making to the Netflix series to see if it is able to capture that same uniqueness and that same authenticity that was captured by the Netflix series. So, you know, people are going to be, you know, I think cautiously optimistic going into the first episode or two, but I think if they're able to come out strong, come out swinging, I think people will jump on board very quickly. And so that's my take, guys. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Are you excited for Daredevil Born Again? Did you watch the original Netflix series? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It is worth every second. It was so good. Such a great series, and I just can't wait to share with you guys Daredevil Born Again. We will be doing reactions to every episode of this series. I'm so excited to share this experience with you guys, and if you want to see the full uncut versions of these episodes, I'll be dropping them over on my Patreon. Over there, become a member, join our community, and let's share and excel and celebrate the hype for this show together. As always, guys, if you enjoy this content, you want to see more trailer breakdowns, trailer reactions, things like that, drop a like on this video. It's a great free way to let me know that I should continue doing this, that you enjoy this kind of content. Comment down below if you're ready, hyped about Daredevil Born Again, and subscribe if you're new here. We would love to have you. As always, guys, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.